What would you do if you realized your own child was trying to kill you? Before we begin this story, please hit that like button, share this with someone who loves a good mystery, and subscribe so you never miss our stories. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We absolutely love hearing from you. I knew something was terribly wrong the second I took another sip of tea. The taste was strange. Not bitter. Not spoiled. Just wrong. It tasted like metal, like pennies sitting on my tongue. But I did not spit it out. That would have looked too strange. That would have made Thomas suspicious. So instead, I let the warm liquid sit in my mouth like I had done 1,000 times before, and I swallowed it slowly. All the while, I watched my son's face. "You still like Earl Grey, right, Mom?" Thomas asked. He was smiling, showing all his teeth. He had even brought my favorite cookies, the butter ones with sugar on top. The ones I used to bake for him when he was small and could not sleep at night. I nodded and put the cup down very carefully on the little table between us. I did not say much. I did not trust my voice. My body knew something was wrong before my brain did. My fingers had turned cold. My stomach felt tight and twisted. But I smiled just a little bit. I could not let him see that I knew. We sat in the sunroom, the bright room with all the windows that used to be my husband David's favorite place. The autumn light came through the old yellow curtains. The glass doors rattled a tiny bit because of the wind outside. Thomas was talking about the weather. Then about the neighbors. Then about houses and how much they cost now. I let him talk. I just watched him. He had not aged well. He was 46 years old, but he looked tired in a way that sleep could not fix. His hair was getting thin on the sides of his head. And there was something in his eyes. Something busy and cold, like he was always counting something in his head, always planning. Then he asked about my will. About the paper that says who gets my house and money when I die. I gave him nothing. No surprise on my face. No anger. Just a calm, polite answer. "Everything is in order, dear," I said. Then I stood up to get the cookie tin from the kitchen. When he finally left an hour later, he kissed my cheek like he always did. Too soft. Too fake. Like he was pretending to be in a movie about a good son. And by then I already knew. I just did not know how bad things would get. That night, around 2 in the morning, I woke up with a horrible tightness in my chest. My eyes could not see clearly when I tried to sit up. Everything looked blurry and far away. I barely made it to the bathroom before I started throwing up. My legs shook so badly that I had to crawl back to my bed on my hands and knees like an animal. My mouth was so dry it hurt. My skin felt cold and wet at the same time. My heart was beating in my ears like a drum that was too far away to reach properly. I should have called someone. I should have called for an ambulance. But I did not. Part of me wanted to believe it was just the flu. Or my blood pressure acting up. Or maybe I had eaten something bad. But a bigger part of me, the part that knows the truth even when you do not want it to, that part already knew. And I was not ready to say it out loud yet. The next morning, I made myself some toast that I could not eat. I sat at the kitchen table with the windows open, wearing a sweater that was too thin for October. I was cold but I did not care. I just stared at the teacup Thomas had used yesterday. It was still sitting there on the counter. There was a brown ring at the bottom. There was a smear of something on the rim, something that did not look like tea. I did not touch it. I did not wash it. I did not clean anything. I just looked at it for a long time. Around noon, I called my doctor's office and made an appointment. I told them it was just a checkup. Nothing urgent. I kept my voice calm and normal. That same afternoon, I opened the old wooden desk by the window. The one David used to keep all our important papers in. I pulled out the folder I had not touched in years. The one with my name written on it in David's big, blocky handwriting. Jones. Inside were all the important papers. The deed to the house. The bank account information. The power of attorney forms. My will. I looked through them slowly, one by one, like I was reading a prayer book. I had not changed anything since David died 12 years ago. Back then, I thought Thomas was having a hard time with money. It felt right to give him some power over my accounts, just in case something happened to me. Just in case I got sick or confused. He had seemed grateful. He had seemed polite and responsible. That version of my son had not lasted long. I held up the paper that gave him access to my bank account. The paper was old and yellow now, but the signature was still clear. Mine. Trusting. Stupid. That evening, I did not answer the phone when Thomas called. Instead, I made tea for myself. I used a box I had opened myself, from a sealed container I kept in the back of the pantry where no one else touched it. I boiled the water longer than usual, watching the bubbles. I did not sit in the sunroom. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, holding the hot cup in my hands. And I asked myself a question I never thought I would have to ask. Did my son just try to kill me? It did not feel real. But then again, neither did the silence that followed. He did not call again that night. He did not check on me the next morning. When we finally spoke 2 days later, it was casual. Brief. He mentioned maybe dropping by again soon. He did not ask how I was feeling. He did not mention the tea. And that is when I knew for certain. He thought it had not worked. He thought I was just old, tired, maybe sick, maybe losing my mind, maybe ready to die. But I was not any of those things. I was not ready. And I was certainly not going to die drinking poison from a teacup in my own house. No. If Thomas wanted to inherit this house, he would have to come and take it from me. And I would be waiting. Thomas was 5 years old the first time he lied to me. He told me he did not break the neighbor's window, even though his little hand was still holding the slingshot behind his back. I remember how his voice shook. How his chin moved up and down like he was about to cry. I knelt down and asked him again very gently. Was it you, Thomas? He looked straight into my eyes and said, No. I did not yell at him that day. I did not even tell his father. I just picked up the rock from our garden, the one that had gone through Mrs. Patterson's window. It was still warm from the sun. I held it in my hand and said quietly, Even good boys do bad things sometimes. But good boys do not lie about them. He cried then. Hard. For a long time. I thought it meant something. I thought it meant he understood. All these years later, I wonder if that was the moment I started making excuses for him. Finding reasons for his bad behavior. Looking for softness in him when there was already something much harder growing inside. When David died, Thomas was 34 years old. He was married by then. He had a job working with houses and money. He lived 2 towns away. He came back for the funeral wearing a nice dark suit. He stood at the edge of David's grave with sunglasses on, even though it was cloudy. He put his hand on my back, but it felt like he was doing it for show. So people would see him being a good son. On the drive home from the cemetery, he asked me what I planned to do with the house. I told him I had not thought about it yet. That I wanted to stay. That this house was all I had left of the life David and I built together. He did not say much after that. But I saw something flash across his face. Something quick and dark. For the first few years after David died, Thomas visited often enough. On birthdays. At Christmas. He brought his daughter, Lucy. She was 6 years old back then, all freckles and big shy eyes. She would sit on the carpet with the old toy piano David had found at a yard sale. She would press each key very carefully, like she was afraid it might break. Thomas would sit at the table and eat whatever I cooked. But he mostly talked about himself. His job. His problems. His plans. And when the money trouble started, first small, then bigger and bigger, I did not think twice about helping. It's just a little loan, Mom, he said the first time. It's just temporary. I swear I will pay it all back once things get better. I kept track at first. Not because I doubted him, but because I believed he would pay me back. I wanted to remember how much love I had given him. Then I stopped counting. The numbers got too big. And he stopped mentioning paying me back. I co-signed for his second mortgage when the bank would not approve him on his own. I paid for Lucy's braces when Thomas said he could not afford them that month. I gave him money for car repairs. For business expenses. For emergencies that seemed to happen every few months. And every time, he promised it was the last time. But it never was. His wife, Jennifer, left him when Lucy was 11. I did not blame her. By then, Thomas had become someone even I did not recognize. Always stressed. Always angry about money. Always looking at me like I was a bank instead of his mother. The visits became less frequent after the divorce. Lucy stopped coming altogether. Thomas said she was busy with school and friends. But I knew the truth. He did not want her around me. Maybe he was afraid I would tell her things. Or maybe he just did not want to share whatever he thought he was going to inherit. 3 years ago, he asked me to add his name to the house deed. Just as a safety measure, Mom, he said. In case something happens to you. It will make things easier. Less paperwork. You know how complicated these things can get. I said no. It was one of the few times I ever said no to him. He did not speak to me for 2 months after that. When he finally called again, he acted like nothing had happened. But I noticed the change. His voice was colder. His visits were shorter. And he started asking more questions about my health. About my memory. About whether I was taking my pills correctly. Now, sitting in my kitchen 3 days after he poisoned my tea, I finally understood what I had been too blind to see before. Thomas did not love me. Maybe he never had. Or maybe he did once, when he was small and needed me. But that love had rotted into something else. Something that looked at me and saw only dollar signs. Only property value. Only an obstacle between him and what he wanted. I thought about all the money I had given him over the years. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Money David and I had saved by being careful. By working hard. By going without things we wanted so we could have security later. Thomas had taken it all. And it still was not enough. I spent that whole day going through my papers more carefully. I found old bank statements in a box under my bed. I started adding up the numbers. The loans I never got back. The co-signed payments I ended up making when he defaulted. The credit card bills he promised to pay but never did. The total made me feel sick all over again. But worse than the money was something else I found. When I logged into my bank account online, something David had set up for me years ago but I rarely used, I saw withdrawals I did not remember making. Small amounts. $50 here. 100 there. Never enough to notice right away. But going back months. Maybe years. Thomas had been stealing from me. Using the power of attorney I had stupidly given him. Taking money slowly, carefully, like he was planning for something bigger. Planning for this. My hands shook as I printed out the bank statements. Page after page of proof. I put them all in a folder and hid it under the loose board in my bedroom closet. The same place I used to hide Christmas presents when Thomas was little. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the tea. About how close I had come. About how if I had drunk the whole cup instead of just a few sips, I might not have woken up at all. And I thought about Thomas, probably sleeping peacefully in his bed, waiting for the phone call that would tell him his mother had died quietly in her sleep. Natural causes. Nothing suspicious. Just an old woman whose time had come. He would have cried at my funeral. I knew he would. He would have given a beautiful speech about what a wonderful mother I was. How much he would miss me. And then he would have sold this house before my body was even cold. But I was still alive. And now I knew exactly who my son really was. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I went to see Dr. Palmer on a Thursday morning. I told the receptionist it was just a routine checkup, nothing special. But when I sat down in his office and closed the door, I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Margaret, this is very serious. We should call the police right now." "Not yet," I said. "I need proof. Real proof. Not just an old woman's suspicions." He did not like it, but he understood. He ran tests on my blood. He wrote everything down carefully in my file. He gave me paperwork that showed I had been poisoned with something called arsenic. Not enough to kill me quickly, but enough to make me very sick. Enough that if Thomas had given me more, or if I had drunk the whole cup, I would have died. Dr. Palmer made copies of everything. He put them in an envelope and sealed it. "Keep this somewhere safe," he said. "And Margaret, please be careful. If he tried once, he might try again." I knew he was right. But I also knew Thomas would be careful now. He would wait. He would watch. He thought he had time. From the doctor's office, I drove across town to see Robert Chen, the lawyer who had helped David and me write our first will 30 years ago. He was older now, with white hair and glasses that sat crooked on his nose. But his mind was still sharp. "I need to change everything," I told him. "And I need Thomas to not know about it." Robert pulled out my file and we went through it page by page. The house. The bank accounts. The investments David had left me. The life insurance policy. Everything had Thomas listed as the beneficiary. As the person who gets everything when I die. I want it all to go to Lucy instead, I said. My granddaughter. She is 18 now. Old enough. Robert nodded slowly. And the power of attorney Thomas has? I want it cancelled. Today. Right now. I want him to have no access to anything of mine ever again. It took 3 hours to do all the paperwork. Robert had me sign document after document. He made copies of everything. He filed the new will with the county office immediately so it would be official and legal. And he helped me set up a new bank account that Thomas did not know about. I transferred most of my money there, leaving just enough in the old account so Thomas would not notice right away. When I left Robert's office, I felt lighter. Stronger. For the first time in days, I felt like I had some control. But I knew this was just the beginning. Changing my will would only matter after I died. And I had no intention of dying anytime soon. What I needed now was to catch Thomas in the act. To make sure everyone knew what he had done. That weekend, Thomas called and said he wanted to visit again. Just to check on you, Mom, he said. His voice was so sweet. So fake. I have been worried. You sounded tired last time we talked. That would be lovely, I said, matching his fake sweetness with my own. Come on Sunday afternoon. I will make cookies. He arrived exactly on time, carrying a small paper bag. I brought you something, he said, kissing my cheek. Those vitamins you said you were running low on. I picked them up from the pharmacy for you. Vitamins. I stared at the bottle he handed me. The seal was broken. The safety cap was already loose. Thank you, dear, I said, setting the bottle on the kitchen counter. That was very thoughtful. We sat in the living room this time. Not the sunroom. I wanted to be closer to the door. Just in case. Thomas talked about work. About how expensive everything was getting. About how he was worried about his own retirement someday. I played my part perfectly. I acted a little more tired than I was. A little more confused. I let my sentences trail off. I asked him the same question twice. I could see his eyes light up each time. He thought I was declining. Getting worse. Getting closer to the end. Are you taking your medicines correctly, Mom? He asked, his voice full of fake concern. It is really important at your age. You cannot skip doses. I try, I said weakly. Sometimes I forget. There are so many pills. Maybe I should help you organize them, he said. Set up one of those weekly pill boxes. Make sure you are taking the right things at the right times. I almost laughed. He wanted to organize my pills. To make sure I took the poisoned vitamins he had just brought. To have even more control over what went into my body. That is so sweet of you, I said instead. But I manage. I have my routines. After he left, I took the vitamin bottle and I did not open it. I put it in a plastic bag and sealed it. Then I put that bag inside another bag. I called Dr. Palmer and told him what happened. He said he could have the pills tested at a lab he trusted. It would take a few days, but he could find out if Thomas had tampered with them. I already knew what the tests would show. But I needed proof. Evidence that would stand up in court. The waiting was the hardest part. Every day, Thomas called to check on me. Did you start taking those vitamins, Mom? He would ask. They are supposed to be really good for energy. Not yet, I would say. I want to finish my current bottle first. You know I do not like to waste things. I could hear the frustration in his voice, even though he tried to hide it. He wanted me to take them. He wanted to finish what he had started with the tea. While I waited for the test results, I did something else. Something I had thought about for days. I went to an electronics store and bought a small recording device. The kind that looks like a pen but records everything you say. The young man at the store showed me how to use it. How to turn it on with just a click. How the battery lasted for hours. I practiced at home recording myself talking. Playing it back. Making sure I knew exactly how it worked. Because I had decided something. I was not just going to prove Thomas had poisoned me. I was going to make him confess. I was going to record him saying it in his own words. 2 weeks after Thomas brought the vitamins, Dr. Palmer called. Margaret, he said, his voice tight and angry. Those pills were full of poison. Antifreeze mixed with something else. If you had taken even 3 or 4 of them, you would have died. Painfully. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Not because I was surprised, but because it was real now. Proven. My son had tried to kill me. Twice. And he would try again if I gave him the chance. But I was not going to give him that chance. I was going to end this. Once and for all. I called Thomas that evening. I need to talk to you about something important, I said, letting my voice shake just a little. Can you come by tomorrow? It is about the house. And my will. I have been thinking and you were right. I should make things easier for you. There was a pause. Then his voice came back, eager and excited. Of course, Mom. I will come first thing in the morning. Whatever you need. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and waited. Tomorrow, I would get my confession. Tomorrow, Thomas would tell me everything. And he would not know I was recording every single word. Thomas arrived at 9 in the morning, right on time. He was wearing a nice sweater and clean pants. He had even shaved. He looked like a man going to an important meeting. Which I suppose he was. Good morning, Mom, he said, hugging me. I felt the recording pen in my cardigan pocket press against my chest. I had turned it on before answering the door. Come in, dear, I said. I made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where David and I had eaten breakfast together for 40 years. The same table where I had fed Thomas as a baby. Where I had helped him with homework. Where I had believed for so long that he was a good person. So, Thomas said, leaning forward. You said you wanted to talk about the house? Yes, I said, folding my hands on the table. I have been thinking. You were right all along. I am getting older. I get confused sometimes. It would be easier if you had more control. Over the house. Over my accounts. Over everything. His face lit up. Actually lit up. Like a child on Christmas morning. Mom, I think that is a really wise decision. Really wise. It will make things so much simpler when the time comes. When I die, you mean, I said flatly. He shifted in his seat. Well, yes. Eventually. But not for a long time, hopefully. Hopefully, I repeated. I let the word hang in the air. Then I said, Thomas, can I ask you something? Of course. Anything. The tea you made me 3 weeks ago. What did you put in it? The color drained from his face. Just for a second. Then he recovered, forcing a confused smile. What? I did not put anything in your tea, Mom. Just tea and a little sugar, like you like it. And the vitamins you brought me. Why was the seal already broken? His smile faded completely. I do not know what you are talking about. Yes, you do. I kept my voice calm. Steady. You poisoned my tea. And when that did not work fast enough, you brought me vitamins filled with antifreeze. You have been stealing money from my account for months. Maybe years. And you have been waiting for me to die so you could have this house. Thomas stood up fast. His chair scraped against the floor. This is crazy. You are confused, Mom. This is exactly what I was worried about. You are not thinking clearly anymore. I am thinking more clearly than I have in years, I said. I stood up too, even though my legs were shaking. You tried to kill me, Thomas. Your own mother. For money. For a house. You are insane, he said. But his voice cracked. You need help. Medical help. Maybe it is time we looked at nursing homes, someplace where people can take care of you properly. So you can control everything while I am locked away? I said. No. Thomas. That is not going to happen. He stared at me. And then something changed in his face. The mask fell away completely. What was left was cold and hard and ugly. You should have just died, he said quietly. It would have been peaceful. Easy. But you had to be stubborn. You always were stubborn. So you admit it, I said. You poisoned me. What does it matter? He laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Who is going to believe you? An old woman with no proof? I will just say you are confused. Senile. Everyone will believe me. I am your son. I am the one taking care of you. Except I do have proof, I said. I pulled the recording pen from my pocket and held it up. The little red light was still blinking. Every word you just said. Recorded. Thomas went very still. His eyes locked on the pen. You are bluffing. The doctor tested my blood, I continued. Arsenic. And he tested the vitamins you brought. Also poison. I have bank statements showing you have been stealing from me. I have a new will that leaves you nothing. And I have a lawyer who knows everything. So no, Thomas, I am not confused. And I am not alone. For a long moment, he just stood there. Then he lunged at me, reaching for the pen. But I was ready. I stepped back fast and screamed as loud as I could. The front door burst open. 2 police officers came in, followed by Detective Maria Santos, the woman I had spoken with 2 days ago when I finally went to the police station with all my evidence. Thomas Walker, Detective Santos said. You are under arrest for attempted murder and elder abuse. Thomas tried to run. He actually tried to run past the officers toward the back door. But they caught him easily. They pushed him against the wall and put handcuffs on his wrists. He was yelling. Saying I was lying. Saying I was crazy. Saying this was all a misunderstanding. But the officers were not listening to him. They were reading him his rights. They were leading him out of my house. Out of my life. I watched from the doorway as they put him in the police car. He looked back at me once. And I do not know what he was expecting to see. Sadness maybe. Regret. But all I felt was relief. And anger. And a strange kind of freedom. Detective Santos stayed behind for a few minutes. You did the right thing, Mrs. Jones, she said gently. I know this was not easy. No, I agreed. It was not easy. But it was necessary. The trial happened 4 months later. Thomas pleaded not guilty at first. He hired an expensive lawyer. He tried to say I had made everything up because I was old and confused and angry at him for some imagined slight. But the evidence was too strong. The doctor's testimony about the poison in my blood. The lab results from the vitamins. The bank statements showing the theft. The recording of him confessing. And my testimony, clear and strong and detailed. The jury found him guilty on all charges. Attempted murder. Elder abuse. Theft. He got 20 years in prison. I did not cry when they read the verdict. I just sat in the courtroom and felt something settle inside me. Something that had been broken for a very long time. After everything was over, I did something I should have done years ago. I called Lucy. My granddaughter. She was 19 by then, in college, studying to be a teacher. Grandma? She said when she answered. Her voice was surprised. We had not spoken in almost 3 years. Hello, sweetheart, I said. I know it has been a long time. And I know your father probably told you things about me. But I would very much like to see you if you are willing. There was a long pause. Then she said, I would like that too. She came to visit the following weekend. She was so grown up, so beautiful. She looked like my mother, her great-grandmother, with the same dark eyes and the same smile. We talked for hours. I told her everything. About her father. About the poison. About the trial. I did not want to hide anything from her. She deserved to know the truth. She cried. She was angry. She felt betrayed. But she also understood. I always knew something was wrong with him, she said quietly. Even when I was little. The way he talked about money. About people. Like everyone was just useful or not useful. You are nothing like him, I told her. You are kind. You are good. You are everything I hoped you would be. I changed my will to leave everything to Lucy. The house. The money. Everything David and I had built together. She tried to say it was too much, that she did not need it. But I insisted. Use it to build a good life, I said. Use it to help people. Use it to be happy. That is all I want. Now 2 years later I am still here. Still in my house. Still drinking tea every morning, though I always make it myself now. The sunroom is bright with new curtains. The garden is full of flowers. And Lucy visits every Sunday with her boyfriend, a nice young man studying to be a nurse. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did. If I wish things had turned out differently. If I miss my son. The answer is complicated. I miss the little boy he used to be. The one who cried when he broke the window. The one who needed me to chase away the monsters under his bed. But that boy has been gone for a long time. Maybe he was never real to begin with. What Thomas became, the man who tried to kill me for money, I do not miss him at all. I learned something important through all of this. That love, real love, is not blind. It does not make excuses. It does not pretend evil is just a misunderstanding. Real love sees clearly. And sometimes, real love means protecting yourself from people who do not love you back. I am 79 years old now. I survived poison. I survived betrayal. I survived my own son trying to murder me. And I am still here. Still strong. Still fighting. This house is mine. This life is mine. And I will decide when it ends. Thank you very much. Not Thomas. Not anyone else. Just me. Every evening, I sit in the sunroom with a cup of tea, the good kind, the safe kind, and I watch the sunset through the windows. The light turns everything gold. The wind rattles the doors gently. And I think about how close I came to losing all of this. But I did not lose it. I won. And every single day I am still alive is a victory. If you enjoyed this story, please do not forget to hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss another story. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what you thought about Margaret's journey. Did she do the right thing? Would you have done the same? We love hearing from you, so drop your thoughts below. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you are stronger than you think. Until next time.